before we step into the world of gods and heroes, let's take a moment together. Make yourself comfortable. Find your favorite spot, whether it's your bed, your couch, or maybe even a quiet corner just for you. Take a deep breath. Let the worries of the day loosen their grip. And since this is YouTube, I'll slip in a little reminder. Before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you sincerely enjoy the stories. It helps more than you know. And if you feel like it, share your location and the time where you are in the comments below. I always find it magical to see listeners from every corner of the world gathering together under these same stories. Now, dim the lights, let your eyelids grow heavy if they wish, and join me as we step into a time when myths breathe life into night air. Tonight, we journey into the vast, strange, and wondrous world of Greek mythology, the timeless shores of Greece. The story begins not with thunder or lightning, but with the sea, the Aegean Sea, its waves curling like liquid glass, endlessly folding into themselves. To the ancient Greeks, this was no ordinary ocean. It was a highway of heroes, the playground of gods, and sometimes the graveyard of the unlucky. Villages clung to its shores. Fishermen with nets drying under the sun, women carrying amphorae of water balanced effortlessly on their heads, children darting through alleys like shadows. Life was humble, but everywhere there was a sense that the divine might be hiding in plain sight. For the Greeks believed their gods were not distant, untouchable figures locked away in the clouds. No, they walked among men, sometimes in disguise, sometimes boldly, always with intentions that were not entirely clear. And above it all, looming higher than any city or village, rose Mount Olympus, a crown of stone and snow, the imagined home of the gods themselves. But before Olympus, before the gods, before temples and sacrifices and golden thrones, there was only chaos. And from chaos, the first stories were born, the birth of the gods. In the beginning, there was no sky, no sea, no earth, only an endless void, chaos. From that void, things began to take shape. Gaia, the earth, Nyx, the night, and Eros, the very force of love and desire that pulls creation forward. Gaia, the earth, gave birth to Uranus, the sky. Together, they became the first great pair. But as with all Greek stories, harmony didn't last long. Uranus, fearful of the power of his children, cast them into the depths of Gaia's womb, burying them within her. Gaia groaned with the pain of her imprisoned children and conspired with her son, Cronus, to overthrow Uranus. One night, when the sky descended to lay upon the earth, Cronus struck. With a sickle forged by his mother, he wounded his father and cast him away. From Uranus's blood sprang the Furies, the giants, and, strangely enough, the beautiful goddess of love herself, Aphrodite. Cronus became ruler, the leader of the Titans. But destiny, as it often does in these tales, had other plans. For a prophecy warned that Cronus too will be overthrown by his own children. And so, to avoid this fate, Cronus did the only logical and truly disturbing thing he could think of. He swallowed them, one by one. The children of Cronus and Rhea were devoured. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, all trapped within their father's stomach. But when Rhea gave birth to her youngest, Zeus, She tricked Cronus by giving him a stone wrapped in swaddling cloth. Cronus swallowed the stone, and Zeus was hidden away. It would be Zeus who grew strong enough to return, free his siblings, and begin a war that would shake the heavens. The Titanomachy, the war between the gods and the Titans, lasted 10 long years. On one side stood Cronus and his Titan brothers, towering and ancient, their strength immense. On the other side, Zeus and his siblings, young, fierce, and burning with the determination of a new order. Lightning clashed against stone fists. Mountains shattered. Rivers boiled. The earth itself groaned beneath the fury of battle. Zeus, armed with his thunderbolts, struck from the sky. Poseidon wielded his trident, shaking the seas into storms. Hades unleashed shadows from the depths of the underworld. Side by side, the siblings fought, aided by allies such as 100-handed giants, each capable of hurling boulders like pebbles. At last, after a decade of unrelenting conflict, the Titans were defeated. Cronus was cast into the dark abyss of Tartarus, chained for eternity. The age of the Titans ended, and the age of the Olympians began. The rise of Mount Olympus. With their victory, the gods claimed their new home, Mount Olympus. High above the mortal world, shrouded in clouds, stood their palace of marble and gold. Here, Zeus ruled as king, with Hera as his queen. Around them gathered their siblings and children. Athena, wise and armored. Apollo, radiant with music and light. Artemis, the huntress. Ares, the god of war. Hephaestus, master of the forge. Aphrodite, goddess of love. Hermes, swift and cunning, and many more. The Olympians became the new rulers of heaven and earth, each with their domains, their powers, and, as we will see again and again, their flaws. For though gods, they were far from perfect. They quarreled, they schemed, they fell in love, they betrayed. In many ways, they were as human as the mortals who worshipped them. Prometheus and the gift of fire. Among the Titans spared from Tartarus was Prometheus, the trickster and friend of mankind. Where other gods cared little for humans, Prometheus pitied their weakness. He stole fire from Olympus, carrying it hidden in a fennel stalk, and gave it to humanity. Fire meant warmth, light, protection, and the spark of civilization itself. With fire, men could cook food, forge tools, and ward off beasts. Humanity leapt forward because of this one gift, but Zeus was enraged. He chained Prometheus to a lonely rock, where each day an eagle would swoop down and tear at his liver, only for it to grow back by nightfall. The torment endless, yet Prometheus endured, and his defiance became a symbol of resistance against tyranny. Pandora's box. To punish humanity for receiving fire, Zeus devised another plan. He ordered the creation of the first woman, Pandora. Each god bestowed upon her a gift: beauty, charm, skill, and curiosity. Pandora was given a jar, later mistranslated as a box, with strict instructions never to open it. But curiosity gnawed at her, as Zeus knew it would. One day, she lifted the lid. Out flew sickness, hunger, envy, greed, all the miseries that now afflict mankind. Horrified, Pandora slammed the jar shut, trapping only one thing inside: hope. And so the Greeks explained the world's suffering, but also its resilience. For even in the face of hardship, hope remained. Zeus the Thunderer, Zeus, king of the gods, ruled with lightning in his hand and thunder in his voice. From his throne atop Olympus, he watched over gods and men alike. But Zeus was not merely a ruler. He was also a wanderer, taking many forms to mingle with mortals. Sometimes he came as a swan, sometimes as a bull, sometimes as a shower of golden light. His affairs were countless, his children innumerable, his temper legendary. Yet despite his flaws, he was the great stabilizer, the one who kept the balance between heaven and earth. Without Zeus, the cosmos itself might unravel, crescent moon transition. And so, as the Olympians took their thrones, the stories of gods and mortals became entwined forever. Yet for every tale of fire and thunder, there were whispers of jealousy, love, and trickery still to come. Close your eyes now, and let us drift deeper as we follow the queen of Olympus herself, Hera, and the watchful eye she casts upon her unfaithful husband, and the mortals caught in their eternal quarrels. Hera, queen of Olympus. Hera was queen among the gods, resplendent in her crown of gold, her robes shimmering with dignity and pride. She was goddess of marriage, protector of wives, guardian of vows. Mortals prayed to her for long unions, for children, for peace within the home. But Hera's heart was not at rest. She was married to Zeus, and Zeus was, well, Zeus, his wanderings among mortals, his endless affairs, and the children born from him gnawed at her like a thorn she could never pull free. Hera's jealousy was fierce, her vengeance legendary. She pursued Leto, mother of Apollo and Artemis, hounding her across the earth, so she struggled to find a place to give birth. She sent serpents to the cradle of the infant Heracles, attempting to strangle him before he grew. And yet, for all her wrath, Hera was not cruel without reason. To her, marriage was sacred, and betrayal a wound too deep to heal. She was both mother and enemy, protector and punisher, a goddess to be feared and respected in equal measure. And in her gaze, even the bravest gods shifted uneasily. Poseidon, lord of the sea. Beneath the waves, in a palace of coral and pearl, Poseidon ruled. His beard foamed like sea spray, his trident gleamed with stormlight. To sailors, he was both savior and destroyer. One day, he might bless their voyage with calm waters. The next, he could unleash a tempest that shattered ships like toys. Poseidon was not subtle. His anger shook the earth itself, for he was also god of earthquakes. His quarrels with Zeus rattled Olympus. His contest with Athena determined the fate of cities. When Athens was to choose its patron deity, Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, bringing forth a salt-water spring. Athena offered an olive tree, humble but enduring. The people chose her gift, and so the city became Athens, not Poseidonia. But Poseidon did not sulk forever. His realm was vast, and his spirit as untamed as the sea he commanded. He fathered heroes and monsters alike, from the winged horse Pegasus to the cyclops Polyphemus, whose single eye glared from beneath a heavy brow. To speak of Poseidon was to speak of power, raw, unpredictable, endless. Hades, keeper of the underworld, far below the world of sunlight, beyond the rivers of shadow, dwelled Hades, the silent god of the dead. Unlike his brothers, he did not seek a throne in the sky or a palace beneath the sea. His kingdom was one of stillness, of shadows, of finality. But do not mistake Hades for cruel. He was stern, yes, and unyielding, but he was not malicious. He did not cause death. He simply received it. In his realm flowed the 5 rivers, Styx of odes, Lethe of forgetfulness, Acheron of sorrow, Phlegethon of fire, and Cocytus of wailing. Souls drifted across them, guided by Hermes, ferried by the boatman Charon, judged by the rulers of fate. Hades rarely left his kingdom, but when he did, the world trembled. His greatest tale is of Persephone, daughter of Demeter, whom he carried to the underworld as his queen. That union, both tragic and tender, gave rise to the seasons. For when Persephone returned to her mother, the earth bloomed. When she returned to Hades, winter fell. Hades was feared, but he was also necessary. For without death, there could be no meaning to life. Athena, goddess of wisdom, from the forehead of Zeus she sprang, fully grown, clad in shining armor, her eyes gleaming with wisdom. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, but not the chaotic war of Ares. No, hers was a strategy, the careful plan, the victory won with cunning rather than brute force. She was the patron of Athens, a city that bore her name and thrived under her guidance. Her olive tree became a symbol of peace and prosperity. Her owl, a symbol of knowledge. Unlike many gods, Athena was untouched by romantic entanglements. She was a virgin goddess, devoted to thought, to craft, to justice. Yet she was not cold. Heroes often found her at their side. Perseus, when he faced Medusa, Odysseus, when he wandered the seas, Heracles, when his labors grew unbearable. Athena was proof that wisdom could be as mighty a weapon as any sword. And when she strode into battle, spear in hand, shield gleaming, no force could stand against her. Apollo and Artemis, twin children of Zeus and Leto, born beneath the watchful eye of Hera's jealousy, were Apollo and Artemis. Apollo, radiant with sunlight, was god of music, prophecy, and healing. His lyre's notes could calm storms, charm beasts, and soothe the restless heart. His temple at Delphi housed the oracle, whose cryptic words shaped the fate of kings and cities alike. Artemis, by contrast, was a creature of night and forest, the huntress, the protector of wild animals, the goddess of the moon. She roamed with her band of maidens, bow in hand, her hounds at her side, fierce in her independence. She punished those who sought to dishonor her. Actaeon, who glimpsed her bathing, was transformed into a stag and torn apart by his own hounds. Together, the twins embodied balance. Sun and moon, music and silence, healing and hunting. The Greeks saw in the rhythm of day and night itself. Dionysus, god of wine. Ah, Dionysus. To speak his name is to smell the sweetness of grapes crushed beneath bare feet, to hear laughter spilling from wine-dark cups, to see revelers dancing under torchlight. Dionysus was not like the other Olympians. He was wild, unpredictable, both joyous and terrifying. He brought ecstasy and madness in equal measure. His followers, the Maenads, roamed the hills in frenzied worship, tearing apart animals and sometimes men in their divine madness. But Dionysus was also a god of theater, of transformation, of breaking boundaries. He was born twice, once from his mortal mother Semele, who perished when she gazed upon Zeus in his full glory, and once from Zeus himself, who sewed the unborn child into his thigh until he was ready to be born again. To mortals, Dionysus brought both comfort and chaos. He loosened the chains of daily life, offered joy in the cup, but reminded them too that ecstasy could tip into ruin. He was a god of paradox, and perhaps that is why he was loved. Hermes, the trickster, swift of foot, clever of tongue. Hermes was a messenger of the gods. His sandals bore wings, his staff carried 2 serpents entwined, and his smile, well, let's just say it rarely meant what it seemed. Hermes was patron of travelers, merchants, thieves, and storytellers. He guided souls to the underworld, whispered secrets into the ears of kings, and stole cattle from Apollo on the very day he was born. When Apollo discovered the theft, Hermes charmed him with music from a lyre, an instrument he had invented from a tortoiseshell, and the two became unlikely friends. He was mischievous, yes, but also kind. Mortals prayed to him for safe journeys, for cleverness in trade, for words to sway stubborn hearts. To Hermes, life was a game, and he played it with wit and speed. And though Zeus often shook his head at Hermes' tricks, he trusted him as few others. For Hermes could slip between worlds, between gods and men, carrying messages that might alter the fate of all. Crescent moon transition. And so, from Hera's jealous watch to Hermes' winged laughter, the Olympians revealed themselves not as distant rulers, but as mirrors of humanity, flawed, glorious, playful, and terrifying. Yet, what is a pantheon without its heroes? Without the mortals who dare to step into the shadow of gods and monsters? Let us drift now, softly, into the tales of heroes. Hercules, Perseus, Theseus, names that echo across the centuries, each carrying the weight of impossible trials. Heracles and the 12 labors. Heracles, the name whisper with awe, a hero of immense strength, but also immense suffering, son of Zeus and the mortal Alcmene. His birth drew Hera's jealous wrath. 2 serpents were sent to his cradle, but the infant crushed them in his tiny fists, a sign of the strength to come. Yet strength alone could not save him from tragedy. Driven mad by Hera's spell, Heracles committed a crime so great he could never forgive himself. To atone, he was given 12 impossible labors by King Eurystheus. Tasks meant to break him. One by one he faced them. The Nemean lion, whose hide no weapon could pierce. He strangled it with his bare hands. The Hydra, whose head grew back double when cut. He seared the stumps with fire. He captured the golden horned hind of Artemis, the boar of Erymanthus, the birds of Stymphalos. He cleaned the Augean stables in a single day by diverting rivers. He fetched the girdle of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, stole the cattle of Geryon, and even descended into Hades itself to bring forth Cerberus, the 3-headed hound. Each labor was not just a feat of strength, but a lesson, endurance, cleverness, humility. And though Heracles was broken many times, he rose each time stronger than before. Perseus and Medusa. Before Heracles, there was Perseus, another son of Zeus. His quest was no less impossible. To slay Medusa, one of the Gorgons, whose gaze turned men to stone. Armed with gift from the gods, Athena's polished shield, Hermes' winged sandals, Hades' helm of invisibility, Perseus set forth. Through swamps and caves, he crept toward Medusa's lair, where serpents writhed in her hair and her hiss echoed like death itself. He dared not look at her directly. Instead, he used the reflection of the shield to guide his strike. With a single swift motion, he severed her head. From her blood sprang Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, a warrior. Perseus carried Medusa's head in a sack, using it to turn enemies into stone when needed. He rescued Andromeda from a sea monster, claimed her as his bride, and became a founder of dynasties. His tale was one of courage, but also of divine aid. For no hero, no matter how bold, truly walks alone. Theseus and the Labyrinth. Deep in Crete, beneath the palace of King Minos, lay a labyrinth, a twisting maze built by Daedalus, so cunning in its design that no one who entered ever found the way out. At its heart lurked the Minotaur, half man, half bull, a beast that feasted on human flesh. Every 9 years, Athens was forced to send 7 youths and 7 maidens to Crete, tribute to the monster. It was a cruel reminder of defeat. But Theseus, Prince of Athens, vowed to end the terror. He sailed with the doomed youths, entered the labyrinth armed with sword and courage alone. But it was not strength that guided him, it was love. Princess Ariadne, daughter of Minos, gave him a thread of golden yarn. Tied at the entrance, she told him, and follow it back once the deed is done. Theseus fought the Minotaur in the dark. The clash echoed through stone halls. Dust, blood, silence. Then, with the monster slain, he retraced the thread and led the youths to freedom. It was victory, but bittersweet, for in the return, he abandoned Ariadne, leaving her on the shores of Naxos, where Dionysus would later claim her as his bride. Heroism, it seemed, was often tangled with heartbreak. Jason and the Argonauts, a ship called the Argo, crewed by the bravest souls of Greece. At its helm, Jason, chosen to reclaim the Golden Fleece. His crew were not ordinary men. They were heroes, Heracles, Orpheus, Atalanta, Castor, and Pollux. The journey was perilous. They faced harpies that tormented King Phineus, clashing rocks that crushed ships, and warriors sprung from dragons' teeth. With Orpheus' music, they stilled the siren song. With cunning, they tricked enemies and survived storms. At last, they reached Colchis, where the Golden Fleece hung in a sacred grove guarded by a sleepless dragon. Here entered Medea, princess of Colchis, a sorceress whose love for Jason would alter her fate forever. With her magic, Jason tamed the dragon, seized the fleece, and fled with her at his side. The Argonauts returned in triumph. Yet Jason's story did not end in joy. His betrayal of Medea, years later, unleashed her wrath, and her vengeance remains one of the most chilling in all of myth. Orpheus and Eurydice. If heroes conquered monsters with swords, Orpheus conquered with song. His lyre could charm trees, rivers, and stones themselves. When his beloved Eurydice died, bitten by a serpent on their wedding day, grief hollowed him. He descended into the underworld, singing so sorrowful a song that even Hades wept. The King of Shadows allowed Eurydice to return on one condition. Orpheus must not look back until both had left the underworld. Step by step they climbed. Shadows clung to them. Silence pressed close. At last, they neared the light of the world above. Doubt whispered in Orpheus' heart. Was she truly behind him? Could he trust the gods? He turned. In that instant, Eurydice was pulled back into darkness, gone forever. Orpheus wandered, his music more mournful than ever, until at last he too perished. His lyre was set among the stars, a reminder that love and loss are inseparable. Atalanta, the swift huntress. Among heroes, there was one woman whose speed outpaced them all, Atalanta. Exposed as an infant, she was raised by a she-bear, then by hunters. Fleet-footed, sharp-eyed, she swore to remain unwed, devoting herself to the wild. When suitors sought her hand, she set a challenge. She would marry only the man who could outrun her. Many tried, none succeeded, for Atalanta was faster than the wind. Then came Hippomenes, who prayed to Aphrodite for aid. The goddess gave him 3 golden apples. As they raced, whenever Atalanta surged ahead, Hippomenes cast down an apple. Its gleam distracted her, slowed her, just enough for him to win. Bound by her vow, she wed him. But their story ended not in bliss, but in transformation. For when they angered the gods, they were turned into lions, yoked to pull a chariot together forever. Atlanta's tale was not just one of speed, but of independence, of the price of vows, of how even gods meddled in the affairs of mortals. Crescent moon transition. And so, heroes rose and fell, their names echoing down the centuries. Heracles with his labors, Perseus with his shield, Theseus with his golden thread. Each victory carried weight, each triumph shadowed by loss. But beyond heroes and gods, there are other tales, stranger still. Tales of curses, of transformations, of wars that shaped the very destiny of Greece. Let us drift there now. The Trojan War begins. It began with a wedding. On Olympus, the gods gathered for the marriage of Peleus and Thetis. All were invited, except Eris, goddess of strife. In her anger, she cast among the guests a golden apple inscribed, "To the fairest." 3 goddesses claimed it, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. None would yield. Zeus, wary of taking sides, appointed Paris, prince of Troy, to judge. Each goddess offered him a bribe. Hera, power; Athena, wisdom; Aphrodite, the love of the most beautiful mortal woman. Paris chose Aphrodite. That woman was Helen, queen of Sparta. When Paris carried her away to Troy, war ignited. Ships gathered under King Agamemnon, warriors from across Greece sailing to bring her back. Among them, Achilles, swiftest of men; Odysseus, cunning and clever; Ajax, mighty as a tower. For 10 years the war raged. Heroes clashed, gods interfered, and Troy's walls held strong. The stage was set for glory and ruin alike. Achilles, the rage of the Greeks. Achilles, son of the sea goddess Thetis, was nearly invincible. His mother had dipped him in the river Styx as an infant, leaving only his heel untouched. He was unmatched in battle, his spear flashing like lightning, his war cry terrifying even to the bravest foes. But Achilles' strength was matched by his pride. When Agamemnon insulted him, he withdrew from battle, sulking in his tent. The Trojans gained ground, and the Greeks faltered. Only when his dearest companion, Patroclus, donned his armor and fell at Hector's spear, did Achilles return to the fight. His grief was terrible. He slaughtered Trojans without mercy, his rage unquenchable. He faced Hector, prince of Troy, in single combat. The duel was fierce, but Achilles triumphed, dragging Hector's body behind his chariot in his wrath. Yet even Achilles was mortal. Paris, guided by Apollo, loosed an arrow that struck his heel. Thus fell the greatest of the Greek warriors, undone by the smallest of weaknesses. The fall of Troy. The war dragged on, weary and bitter. Then Odysseus, cunning as ever, devised a plan. A great wooden horse, hollow within, was built and left before the gates of Troy as a supposed offering of surrender. The Greeks pretended to sail away. The Trojans, against the warnings of the priest Laocoon, who cried, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts," dragged the horse into the city. That night, as the city slept, Greek warriors slipped from the horse's belly, opened the gates, and signaled their army's return. Troy burned. Its people were slaughtered or enslaved. King Priam was cut down. Cassandra's cries went unheeded, and Aeneas fled with a handful of survivors, destined to begin a new tale far away in Italy. The war had ended, but peace was not won, for the gods were not yet finished with the Greeks. The Odyssey of Odysseus. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, longed only to return home after the fall of Troy, but his journey stretched into 10 more years, filled with trials as strange as they were perilous. He blinded the Cyclops Polyphemus, son of Poseidon, earning the sea god's wrath. He sailed past the island of Circe, where his men were turned to swine, and past the sirens, whose voices lured sailors to their doom. He navigated the strait between Scylla, the 6-headed monster, and Charybdis, the whirlpool that devoured ships whole. On the island of the sun god Helios, his starving crew slaughtered sacred cattle, and Zeus struck them down with a storm. Alone, Odysseus drifted, clinging to life. He lingered years with Calypso, a nymph who offered him immortality. Yet his heart longed for Ithaca. At last, aided by Athena, he returned. Disguised as a beggar, he found his halls overrun with suitors courting his wife, Penelope. In a contest of skill, he strung his great bow and revealed himself, reclaiming his throne at last. The Tragedy of Oedipus. Not all Greek tales are of triumph. Some are woven with threads of tragedy too heavy to escape. Oedipus, abandoned as an infant to thwart prophecy, grew to manhood unaware of his fate. The oracle had warned he would kill his father and marry his mother. Despite every effort to prevent it, destiny wound its way around him. He killed a stranger on the road, his father, though he did not know it. He solved the riddle of the Sphinx, saving Thebes, and was rewarded with its throne in the hand of its widowed queen, his mother, Jocasta. Years later, the truth unraveled. Horror fell upon Thebes. Jocasta ended her life. Oedipus blinded himself, unable to face the sight of what he had become. His tale was a warning that even kings cannot outrun fate. Closing reflections, gods, mortals, and dreams. And so we come to the end of our long night's journey, from the birth of gods on Olympus, to the heroes who battled monsters, to the wars that toppled cities. Greek mythology has given us stories of power, love, jealousy, and sorrow. The gods were not perfect. The heroes were not flawless. They were mirrors of us, magnified and eternal. Through their myths, the Greeks sought to explain the storms and the stars, the rise and fall of kingdoms, the mysteries of love and death. And as you drift now into sleep, remember that myths are not merely old tales. They are echoes of questions we still ask, of fears we still hold, of hopes that still flicker within us. So let your mind wander among Olympus and Troy, among heroes and lovers, among gods and mortals. Close your eyes. The stories will wait for you, as they have waited for thousands of years. Sweet dreams, dear listener. Until next time.